of the Cheshire Board of Education. I'll call roll. Catherine Hallen,
Here.
Tim White,
Here.
Andrew Martelli. All right, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag,
Flag,
of the
United
United
States
States
of
of
America,
America,
and
to the republic for which
for which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all.
for all.
Amen.
All right.
Okay.
So we have tonight with us Vinny Massiana and Richard Clavette.
Yes,
Rich,
present.
you're going to run us through some project updates. Vin, you're going to take the first interior lighting upgrade under the JK Energy project improvements at the schools.
Yes, I will. Thank you and good evening, everyone. Appreciate you pulling this meeting together rather quickly. You know, I do apologize. I did send some of these documents late, but what I'm going to try and do tonight is present as much as I can on the screen so you could follow along. And I'm assuming you could see the agenda on the screen now.
Yes.
Yep.
So the first item is the interior lighting upgrade recommendation that we have. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background. I'll go quickly, but if there are questions, just let me know as we go through. So, here, the background is that in 2019, we did a project with JK Energy at Cheshire High School to make some energy improvements. And, what I'm showing here on the screen is what that project entailed. We replaced the steam piping insulation in the utility tunnels below Cheshire High School. And you could see that the project cost was $52,000 and energy savings estimate from doing that was $7,300. We also went in and upgraded all the LED lighting that we weren't able to do as part of the 2015 Amoresco Energy Performance Contract project. So we hit areas like interior offices, gyms, and other spaces that were just not part of the original Amoresco project. So you could see that, that project cost was $198,000 with $19,000 in energy savings. And then we made some refrigeration improvements to fans and motors, on the, mostly the kitchen and heavy duty refrigeration we have. $15,000 project cost, generated energy savings of $1,700 per year. The total project cost here before incentives was $266,000. We received $103,000 in energy conservation incentives from Eversource as part of that. And so the net project cost to the schools was $162,000 with energy savings of $28,000. You could see that the payback on that project was 5.71 years. JK Energy did a very good job with the actual contracted work, and Rich is on with us, and he could vouch for the work that they did. The one thing that I do want to explain is this $162,000, and just for brevity, I didn't include all the detail on this particular project, but the way we funded the $162,000 was we had a 5-year interest-free loan that gets paid back through our energy bills. So we had to lay out $62,493, from our capital account to cover the $62,000 that wasn't in the interest-free loan.
Yeah, I think on this portion of the project, the $100,000 interest-free loan was for a term of 4 years.
Correct. Thank you, Rich.
Yep.
So, the bottom line is we saved $28,000 a year. We pay $25,000 per year to pay off that $100,000 loan. And then after year 4, our savings is the full $28,449. The interesting thing when we did this is that we had appropriated, about $100,000 to do the pipe insulation, and we didn't need it because that only wound up costing us this $52,000. So we know JK Resources work already, and they are one of the approved contractors in the Small Business Energy Advantage Program with Eversource, and that's, how we were able to get that $100,000 of financing. We also didn't need to go to bid because this was already bid by Eversource. Okay, so that's the background. Rich, did you want to add anything on this original project?
No, the only thing to add on the SBEA program is I believe the town is utilizing a different contractor under the same program to update their park lighting and parking lot lighting to LED. So they're in a similar program, only with a different contractor.
Vin, can I ask a question? All that work was completed in 2019,
Correct.
2018, 2019, all that work.
Summer 2019. It was done during school shutdown with
Okay.
some punch list activity that ran maybe into mid-September.
Who did the actual work? Did JK do?
JK, yeah, JK
Okay.
Resources LLC basically is kind of like a construction project manager that hires electrical contractors, mechanical contractors, refrigeration specialists. So they basically develop a group of contractors, select contractors that they work with continuously through all of these projects. In order to qualify for the SBEA program, they have to provide guaranteed pricing. So those subcontractors have to agree to those prices as well. So it works pretty well. And I was actually skeptical at first, but was surprised at how well they managed the project, how well they worked on site. They were clean. They cleaned up, every day, which if you have any experience in construction, that's usually almost an impossibility. And they were very responsive. So, if there was a bad fixture, it was replaced immediately. They were very, very good, and I would have no qualms with working with them again.
Great.
And coming from Rich, who I know better than you maybe, that's saying a lot because he usually does have a qualm about something.
That's good. That's good.
It is good. No, it's an excellent characteristic for him to have. So if there are no other questions, I'll move to what we're recommending and asking for approval tonight. So based on the success of the high school project, we continued to talk to JK Energy. And when I say we, I mean mostly Rich, because he did all the legwork and, obviously we worked together as we got to this approval stage. But they went back into Dodd and all the elementary schools, and we asked them to find, are there additional projects that we could do that are eligible for this Eversource Business Energy Advantage program that we could start to reduce our energy costs and make improvements to these buildings. And so what I'm showing on the screen now is the recommended project that we would like to do, this summer. And you could see just very quickly that it affects Dodd, Highland, Doolittle, Chapman, Darcy, and Norton. So basically all our other buildings outside of the high school, less Humiston. Most of the project work is, again, to replace LED lighting or replace whatever we have with LED lighting. At Dodd and Highland, though, there are some refrigeration, motor, and fan controls that were worth doing. So you could see the project costs by building, the highest being over at Highland, followed by Chapman and then Dodd. The project overall has a $139,000 project cost before the incentive. There's a $32,977 incentive that is attributable to this work from Eversource. So the project cost is $106,120. The energy savings is $22,662. So when you look at the payback, we're under 5 years on these projects. The actual financing details is where this gets a little bit more interesting and I think easier for us. So here's the $106,000 project cost. We're eligible again for a zero interest loan, except this time it's 5 years instead of the 4 at the high school. So the only funding we need to do a $106,000 project is $6,120, which would come right out of our operating budget. We certainly can cover that. So if we look just a little bit further, from a cash flow perspective, the energy savings is $22,000 a year for the first 5 years. We have to pay that loan back in $20,000 increments over 5 years. So we're net positive cash flow in years 1 through 5 of 2,662. And then once the loan is repaid, the entire energy savings passes through to us. The only other thing I want to mention, and then we can answer some questions. If you look, and I gave, I know it's 47 pages of detail, but this is the work that JK Resources did. So they did it by school. They showed a summary of the savings and the incentive by school, which we just rolled up.
Nice.
And then here you could see every single one of the ECMs, the energy conservation measures. So you could see that, the LED lighting, we're replacing gym, storage room, custodian's office, main office, storage, again, everything but classrooms and hallways, because those were covered as part of the Amoresco contract back in 2015. So that's in a nutshell, the summary of what we're recommending. And, what we're asking for is the planning committee's approval to seek approval from the Board of Education to go forward with this, as well as, and this is the critical piece, we, as a Board of Ed, we are not allowed to borrow money. Only the town council can authorize that. So even though it's a 5-year interest-free loan, we still require approval of the town council to proceed, and execute a loan agreement. And actually, the loan agreement, once it's approved by the council, would get executed by Sean Kimball. It's the same way we did it in the project last year at the high school.
Okay. All right, Catherine, you have a question?
Yes. Vin, on the list of the new, can you go up a page?
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm just curious why the payback years for the Norton School project is so much higher than the rest of them, just out of curiosity.
Hey, Rich, while I'm thumbing through to find Norton,
Yeah, I think what drives that is ultimately they look at usage. So ultimately, like Norton, a good portion of the school was already converted to LED, including exterior lighting. So the lights that are left are what are the ones that get almost no return, which is why it wasn't covered under the Amoresco project. So it's bathroom lights, closet lights, storeroom lighting, things that typically aren't on all the time.
Yep.
So you don't really get a large kilowatt hour savings return. But when you roll it into, that was the beauty of, rolling all of this into, it'll take the highs and the lows and average them out. So, it becomes a little bit more palatable.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is the detail for Norton, and you could see some of the annual hours are 800 hours. So that doesn't really, that's where you're going to have some of the longer paybacks. But as Rick was saying, when you put this all into one larger project, it works as a large project. So that's where the advantage comes in. The big money savers offset the not so big money savers.
Right.
Right.
And the beauty is district-wide will be like 99.9% LED, will be completely divorced from incandescent, compact fluorescent, and fluorescent. So that'll be good too. What's not realized here will be future maintenance costs, bulb replacement, ballast replacement, general lighting maintenance that will virtually go away.
Yeah, and I mean, the other advantage is we like not sending our guys up on ladders to replace bulbs all the time because, we've had some pretty serious ladder injuries. So yeah, that's a great point, Rich, that the maintenance savings, these LEDs, they're rated for about 50,000 hours.
That's correct.
Well, we won't be replacing bulbs or we won't be replacing LEDs and, unless one just
Yeah,
fails.
they
But
fail.
the failure rate's
They do fail.
pretty low.
Vin,
Yes.
question. With the energy incentive that we get, the conservation incentive that we receive, and then the Eversource Business Energy Advantage Program, the 5-year loan, if we renovate or close or do something with any of the schools, does that impact the incentives that we received from Eversource for the work that was done? Meaning, is there a time period that the work has to remain in place in order to receive that money, or is the town going to be responsible for paying it back?
No.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
answer that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the way the SBEA program works, the incentive actually goes to the contractor. We don't receive the incentive. We just reap the benefit of it. So when Eversource reviews this project in its entirety, it approves it in its entirety. So regardless whether a building is opened or closed within the next 6 months to a year, has no bearing as to what the project cost ends up being.
Okay, and that's for both projects, for the incentive and for the loan.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the loan is the loan. So if
Right.
if
We
you
have to pay
take
it
out
back.
the loan, they'll relamp
right.
8
Right.
buildings and you close 4, you still owe them for the.
Right, you still owe the money. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't see any. Tim, nothing?
Yeah, it's I'll just finish by saying it's a good deal. It was a good deal when we worked with them in 2019 for the high school, and I think the thing that impresses me the most, there's a lot of data here other than our front end, and there's a risk on their part. They do this at without a cost to the schools, so. And you can look, there's a lot of man hours involved here to do the due diligence, to actually, go through every closet, every storage area, every basement, every attic, and, determine what can be, what can be converted to LED for the maximum energy savings amount that we could possibly benefit from. So it's a really good program. Wish we had more buildings after this to do, but I highly recommend it.
All right, Tim, you have a question?
Yeah, so thank you, Andrew. And I want to apologize to everybody. I've run in and out of this meeting a little bit. I have a 4-year-old who did not take a nap today, and 6 p.m. is a little late to making it to this point. Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone said this, but I just want to mention. So we have a 4.5-year payback. School, it's entirely possible a school gets demolished and rebuilt. Or we get a new one. It's possible. That would probably take at least 2 to 3 years. So to me, even taking that into context, this makes sense to do this project, because we were talking about 6 schools out of, and maybe one I could, be done in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and if you take it at a school by school, analysis, as it's relatively low cost. There's low risk.
Yeah, no, I think this project makes a lot of sense. Thank you for doing it, Rich. And the one other thing that I wasn't quite sure in looking at this, is there a demand savings in here, or is it just KWH energy?
It's just calculated as KWH.
So there actually could be it's entirely possible we get more savings.
Yeah, I mean, if our overall usage drops, our demand rate automatically drops as well. So yeah, there's potential for more savings.
Yeah, so just to get everybody on the same page, what Rich and I are talking about is you have KW kilowatts and you have KWH kilowatt hours. And when you're, for residential, you really only talk about kilowatt hours. But when you get into commercial buildings, there are charges for both KW and for KWH. The savings calculated here is related to the KWH, but there could actually be a savings related to the KW. Not guaranteed, but it's entirely possible that there would be. So yeah, thank you. I mean, to me, this makes sense to do this.
Thank you.
Where did the motion go?
Any other questions? Do we have any? Let's see.
Nope.
All right. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve?
I can't find the text of the motion.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me either.
I have it.
Oh,
You
wait,
do? Okay.
where is it?
It's on the
It's
screen.
number
now.
one.
It's on the
Yep.
screen. Okay. I'll make the motion. I move that the planning committee requests that the Board of Education approves the recommendation to proceed with the energy improvement project as proposed by JK Energy, and further to seek the required approval from the Cheshire Town Council for approval of the financing agreement.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Tim, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion carried.
Great.
Excellent, thank you.
So now, next step, Vin, you're gonna present to we'll present at the full board meeting and then to the town council.
Yes, after the board approves it, I'll get
Yep.
on the agenda for the town council and we'll take them, through and share the documents and hopefully get it approved. And then get it done this summer is the goal.
Will this go on Thursday's agenda, this Thursday's business meeting?
Yes, it's already on.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. The next few items are updates. The next one is a stadium lighting upgrade, and this is a capital budget appropriation, but I just kept it under the JK Energy project agenda because, as it turns out, this project, it has been awarded to JK Energy, who has a state Department of Administrative Services award for this type of work. And so to give you just some quick background, back in 2018, Rich, went ahead and had a study done of the stadium lighting at the Cheshire High School main game field. And, the results of the study, and it was pretty detailed, is that the type of lighting that we had, and Rich, that's metal halide lighting at the field right now.
That's correct.
Even after Rich had all the bulbs replaced, which is an expensive proposition because we have to we have to rent a lift, to get up to each of those very high fixtures. With replacing all the bulbs as new, I think we got somewhere to 20-foot candles. We should have 30. So it was really insufficient lighting, plus it's more expensive to have metal halide than LED, which will be installed with this project. So, Rich, do you want to talk about that in any more detail?
Yeah, it was just, and again, I think the study was, my grandson plays on the Cheshire football team. So a few years back, I went to a game and it was, early evening, the sun had set and I could not see anything. And I'm like telling my wife, I says, I have to go to optometrist because I just can't see anything out in the field. So I said, out of curiosity, let me grab a light meter. And when, I think it was a week later, they were having practice at night. I went out there and started measuring. And I was astonished because, out of the 21 points that I took throughout the field, that we were under 10-foot candles. And, we're supposed to be, triple that amount. So it kind of explained why I couldn't see anything because it just wasn't light enough. So we did replace it. We replaced the metal halide. Metal halide is a very bright light. It has a great lumen output. The problem with metal halide is that as soon as you put electricity to it, it begins to degrade almost immediately. So the bell curve on how long it takes for metal halide from peak to valley is a very short period, roughly 1.5 years. So it's, at about $10,000 a change, it was time to investigate what was available for LED lighting. So that's what prompted this study. We found that 30-foot candles was the industry standard for high school football or high school athletic fields. I solicited some lighting designs to see what it would take to meet that. And that was the result of the result of that study is in front of you.
Okay, and so the I guess the one thing I want to say about this project is, even though there is an energy savings, which is estimated at about $6,300 per year. Some of it is maintenance and the rest is energy savings. Because we're not running these lights, other than a certain period of time during the year, and for a limited number of hours, we're not going to have a large energy savings. But it is really more of a lighting improvement project that, it does save us energy, but it is a lighting improvement project for the benefit of people who use the field.
Yeah, I think you can look at it from a perspective of safety. It certainly is an improvement on safety, for people that are playing the field.
Yeah. So the project is, it's $139,000 project cost. But there is an incentive from the utility. It's $13,000. So it's somewhere around 10%. Again, it's lower because of the usage hours. So the net total investment is $126,315. This, because of the DAS award, this was awarded to JK Energy. And Rich, I don't know, do you know when they might begin work? Because I know there might be a lead time.
Well, yeah, we've submitted the contract to them, so we're in the process of contract execution. Once that occurs, then they can start their material orders. So as with all materials today, we're going to be susceptible to long lead time. So that's why I'm trying to get this kicked off ASAP.
Okay. And so the bottom line, the installation will be, why don't you talk about what we're getting, Rich? I don't want to steal the thunder.
What we're getting? You mean what
Dimmable,
they're actually installing?
yeah, dimmable LED.
Yeah, there'll be so the premise of the project is we reutilize the poles, so the poles stay in place. We reutilize the wiring harness. So what gets changed will be the light fixture, all the light fixture stands at the top of the poles, and then brand new LED light fixtures. So they're comparable. They're comparable to 1,500-watt metal halide. More focused, narrower beam, better control. The controls will be, instead, right now we have a keyed on off. I think it's actually it's an on off, simple on off switch at the switchboard. This control, which is the ARC 10 control, will allow dimming capability, scheduling capability, remote operation. It's all in the cloud operation, so we'll be able to. You could dial in on a cell phone and turn the lights on, turn the lights off, adjust them. No keys. It'll be a keyless operation. Much easier to maintain. You could schedule, so automatic shutoffs occur, and stadium lighting doesn't stay on all night, which occasionally happens. So there's a lot of benefits to at least control and operation on these new lights.
Rich, the existing lighting array, meaning the towers, all those are going to be reused, or just
Yes.
new lighting? Okay.
Yeah, the towers themselves are in good condition. It's all galvanized steel, and then the wiring harness was replaced not that long ago. I think probably 7 years ago, and new switchboards installed. There was I guess there was a wiring harness failure some years back. I don't know, Vin, maybe you know more about that than I do. But apparently it occurred during the game as well. So
I think that was just before my time.
Yeah. So the wiring harness is still in good shape, where there's no need to replace the conductors. So, that's a savings in itself. The capital was for 150,000, and we're going to get this accomplished for less than that. So I think it's a good deal.
Okay. Tim White has a question.
Yeah, Rich, to be able to operate stuff from the cloud is definitely helpful.
Yep.
But that stuff it's not unheard of that stuff goes wrong. Do you
Oh,
still have a
absolutely.
physical? Huh?
I'm not selling you a perfect system or an infallible one either.
Do you still have a physical switch where somebody can go turn the lights
Yeah.
on?
Oh
and off?
yeah.
Okay.
You're still gonna have a switchboard, with a main on it. Absolutely.
Okay.
The
Okay.
control will just be, will be inline, and it can certainly be bypassed if that's your question.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, somebody doesn't have their cell phone. They forgot it at home and then they don't have the app and nobody does. And you can still go turn on the switch.
Fortunately, I live pretty close to the high school, and I see the stadium lights when they're on. So I'll be right here, right at this desk, watching the lights.
Well, there should be less light pollution though from this, right, Rich?
Yeah, it's more focused, and the fact that it's dimmable will provide some relief for the neighbors. So, for instance, the goal is to say you're having a football game, so light levels would be at roughly, say, 60% until game time. At game time, it would ramp to 100%. Halftime would ramp down to 60. Second half starts, ramp up to 80. Conversely, when it's time to go home, it ramps down to 60. We give our patrons 30 minutes to clear the field. The lights flash their warning and then fade out to off. It'll be, that's just one scenario that could be scheduled into a system like that. So it'll be, I think it'll be good. And LED tends to be less light scattering than metal halide or incandescent, so it should reduce light pollution.
Yeah.
And what's the funding mechanism for this? And I'm sorry if I missed that.
Capital.
Already.
It's capital. We have 150,000 in town capital that we're
Okay,
utilizing.
so we're recommending this goes in the capital budget that the
it's already under under our domain, I believe, right, Vin?
Yeah, it's been assigned to the Board of Ed. Yeah, so we don't need we don't need anything here. It looks like at this stage we're going to come about 24,000 under the appropriation, so we'll give that money back.
Great.
Okay.
Any other questions? I think that's it.
Okay.
Superintendent has joined us also.
Oh, welcome.
Hello, Doctor.
Hello, guys. Thank you for that very warm welcome, Vin and Rich. Thanks, Andrew.
All right, Jeff. All right, who's doing the capital project underway update?
I'll rip through this quickly because these are all updates. The Darcy underground storage tank replacement, that went out to bid. It's been awarded. We're amazed, right, Rich, at the price. It looks like we're going to be able to replace this for about $51,000.
So we originally had this project initially designed, and I had Silver and Petrocelli. The original premise is that we were going to replace like for like. So right now we have a 10,000 gallon underground storage tank for fuel oil with a pretty significant long fuel run, which would have required new fuel lines, replacement of the interior fuel pumps, and the initial budget estimate was 188,000. So after some thinking, I talked to a couple HVAC contractors, and they said, "Why don't you investigate the use of propane, which is bottled gas, similar to what many of us used to light their fireplaces on a cold winter night." So we took a look at that option and to see what that cost would be, and I knew I could get the tank removed for a relatively low price. So we developed the scope to a three-part scope. One to remove the existing tank and restore the landscaping. Provide two 1,000 gallon underground storage tanks. They're LP, liquid propane, and then modify the burners that are for the existing heat and hot water boilers. Those three components combined will come in at under less than $80,000. So yeah, that was the pleasant surprise.
Yeah, and because kind of what Tim you talked about earlier, we don't know what the long-term fate of Darcy would be, but we're doing a good replacement, at a much lower cost than we originally expected. And just by way of background, the Darcy underground oil storage tank it's reached its 30-year life, so it has
Well,
to come out of the
it's not
ground.
even, it's even beyond, it's even past that. It's completely failed. It didn't
Yeah.
make it to its 30-year life, intended life cycle. It failed previous to that. So it is non-compliant right now with DEEP.
So,
The other,
Rick,
yes,
quick question. The underground storage tank at Darcy. So we're doing Darcy and we're doing what other schools? Doolittle?
Doolittle.
Just those two? And that 560, is that appropriation for multiple years or is that just for these two projects?
I think it can be for multiple years.
Yeah, it's multiple years, but it's for these two projects.
And these are the first two of that 560 being expended?
Yeah, it's the only two we have left.
Okay.
The other
No,
one-
that's not true either.
Well, okay.
Yeah, the high school will need that one's going to need to be replaced in the next 2 years.
But we're replacing that one?
Yeah, and I think we need to talk about it only because I think initially we had discussed not replacing it because the building utilizes gas, but because it's also used as a town emergency center, it might be wise to maintain the dual fuel capability there.
Got it.
But Doolittle, there's three schools that we do not have access to natural gas.
That's Norton, Doolittle, and Darcy.
Correct.
Norton has a fiberglass tank and is good till I believe 2026 or 27.
Okay.
So we have some
Do you
time.
want to
Yet.
ask your question now? Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, go.
That was me. I was just curious, the amount that was appropriated and requested, do we have any concerns about like contaminated soil that we're gonna have to deal with once the tank's removed, or has all that kind of testing been done and we don't think there is any, or what?
Now, when you're removing a tank, in my career, I've removed over 35 tanks, and I've yet to see one that has failed to that degree. Ultimately, that's an unknown. If a tank has failed, you wouldn't really know it until you dug it up and tested the soil below or had a visual confirmation. They actually sniff the soil to check for hydrocarbon. That's how they determine if the soil's been contaminated.
Yeah.
But in a scenario like that, you would have to have some indicators. So you would have to have extreme usage. So say, normally Doolittle, for instance, we burn 30,000 gallons of fuel oil a year, and all of a sudden I'm burning 50,000 gallons, then, it would be suspect that there would be a leak somewhere. But I'm confident we've pulled up 5 tanks thus far, district wide, and everyone came up clean. I don't anticipate that's gonna
Great.
change.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
Vin, we might be $100,000 under this UST appropriation.
Yeah. Yeah, and this was this is $100,000 pickup over what was, originally anticipated and requested.
That's great.
Unfortunately, we don't get to keep that money per se. If it's capital money and it's not used, the town just doesn't borrow the funding for it.
Right. It's more for school modernization, right?
Absolutely. I like the thinking, Andrew. Okay, we're good with that one? Window replacement at the high school. Another one, bid awarded. This one went to J.L. Simpson. We had 5, even though we have 750,000 appropriated for windows, this phase of the project we bid was 500,000. We did get a responsive bid that was awarded to J.L. Simpson. And the total, including, alternates that we had to do multiple classrooms, came in at 479,283. So we're in good shape with that one. Contract signed, ready to move forward. I'll keep going until somebody says stop.
I'm good.
Okay, Norton unit ventilator, that was also bid, $110,000 appropriation, $96,000 award to FF Hitchcock. District flooring we're going to replace the library carpet at Cheshire High School through a Department of Administrative Services State Award to Spectrum Flooring. We have $200,000 appropriated. Rich, I don't remember how much.
I think it's like 61.
Okay.
So that includes demo.
Okay. And so we'll have money remaining to do other floors across the district.
Yeah, we're going to work on scope review for replacement of the stairwell flooring.
Catherine, you want to jump in? Oop, you're on mute. All right.
This is kind of more of a general question. To the extent that work is being done inside the buildings, I mean, I assume that there's like a COVID protocol that these companies are going to be following. Do we have any concerns about, people coming in and out and working on the buildings and being able to reopen in September? God willing.
Every
All
vendor
yours,
and subcontractor that comes into Cheshire Public Schools facilities is required to provide us with their company policy regarding COVID-19 protection for their employees and their customers. So we have 80% of them have complied. Out of those 80, 50 have already worked in our buildings.
Yep.
So yeah, it requires that. It requires that policy and statement in order to work in our buildings. You must come in masked and you must maintain social distancing.
Great. I knew you already had that under control. I just was curious. Thanks.
That's a great question. Thank you.
Hey, Rich, with the library carpet at CHS, there was no asbestos mastic or anything underneath?
No.
No?
No, the carpet actually isn't all that old. So
But under that, is there tiles that's going to be covered over?
no,
that
it's on concrete
Concrete.
decking. Yeah, it's concrete floor, flat slab.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we had done we had abated that library floor in the prior project. So, we know it's clean.
Very good. Okay.
Next one is the Doolittle underground storage tank replacement. The bid was released and Rich has a walkthrough scheduled for this week.
Yeah, tomorrow afternoon, actually.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, this is another one that I'm trying to get in under the wire before school reopens. This tank also is beyond its 30-year limitation per DEEP. It's a tight tank and it works okay. We're gonna opt to go with a smaller tank. It's a 10,000 gallon underground storage tank. Currently, we're gonna go with a 6,000 gallon double wall fiberglass tank. Relocate it so it's out of the driveway. The big issue here is going to be lead time on that tank. So I'm hopeful that there was an abandoned construction project somewhere out in North America, and that tank is just sitting there waiting for me to come and get it.
Sure. All right. And then Rich is working on scope for the millwork replacement across the district. Worst first basis is the method that we use. Same thing for ceiling tile replacement. And you can see the dollar amounts that are appropriated for those projects. The Norton Cafeteria project, that is assigned to the Public Building Commission. And what we're going to do, between now and next summer, because this project won't get done until next summer, is just get the design work done. Who's going to be selected for that, Rich? Do you know?
I think it's Wojcik. I'm not 100% sure, but I
Okay.
believe it's Jan Wojcik, who was the architect for the Doolittle Elementary School kitchen renovation last year, which came out nice.
Okay. Highland boiler replacement, that's a relatively large project. Rich, what's the update on that? I know you spoke
Yeah,
to.
we're I'm in negotiation with the designer. I had a preliminary boiler design completed in 2018. So we're going to convert the existing hot water boiler to condensing boilers. But I also want them to integrate the domestic hot water package, and then also take a look at eliminating some of our existing pneumatic controls. So they're revising the drawing and revising the bid package, and I'm hoping that I can get that out to the street by the end of June. If I can accomplish that, I think we could get this project done this year. The beauty of it is Highland Boiler is segregated from the rest of the school building. The only thing I'll have to come up with is a temporary hot water plan. But we could certainly do boiler work all the way into October without impact to school operations. So I'm hoping I can get that in this year.
Okay, great. Dot HVAC, working on design.
Yeah, working with the designer, the mechanical engineer right now. So that's in process.
Now, the high school HVAC
Yeah.
improvements, we have two related projects, HVAC improvements and legacy control improvements, both at the high school that are in scope definition, right, Rich? Nothing else to add there?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, the next one, we're going to be repaving the Cheshire High School, on the north side, the parking lot, and also Chapman's parking lot. So Rich is working on pricing. We know that there is a state award to Tilcon. Is it Tilcon, Rich?
Yes, it is Tilcon.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's who the town uses as well. So, I'm not sure it's going to go to them, but that's the likely candidate.
Well, yeah, we're waiting on pricing. We're waiting on pricing from them.
Is the north parking lot like towards Patton Drive?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, it's the teachers' parking lots, the two-tiered lot.
got it.
And then the Doolittle parking lot, entrance repaving, that's a separate appropriation, but that's also getting priced. So those hopefully get done all this summer.
It's aggressive, but we're trying.
Yeah. Well, this whole list is aggressive, Rich, but you'll get
Yeah,
it.
I'm more confident in some than the others. So paving is a tough one.
Can I just jump back, Rich? The CHS BMS, that's Building Management System Legacy Controls.
Yep.
Is that to help balance the systems in the school?
To help control the systems.
Okay.
Control and balancing are two separate components. So right now, there's percentage of controls in the school that are pneumatic. So it's basically the valves that control primarily heat or fresh air damper position, are controlled by air pressure versus direct digital controls, which is controlled by a little electric servo. So you get much finer control with DDC than you do with pneumatic.
Got it.
Yeah, what happened though, just to give you a little more background, in 2015, when we did the Amoresco project, we did not upgrade all the controls at Cheshire High School. I wish we would have, but it, wasn't included in the scope. So, it was good that this appropriation was approved so that we can, work to get all of Cheshire High School, on the BMS system with updated controls. And I know, Andrew, I know you're asking about the load balancing because it's come up during some of the school modernization
Exactly.
meetings. So, Rich, I know you and I have talked about what load balancing is.
The bottom line on load balancing. So load balancing is a commissioning step in the installation of an HVAC system. So when a mechanical engineer / architect develop an HVAC system, they also earmark all the supply ducts to output a certain amount of air. So they usually use cubic feet per minute. So like a standard, I'll say 9x9 supply register will probably supply roughly 75 to 95 cubic feet per minute of air. So the balancing component is when that system is finally installed, a balancing firm, a certified balancing firm comes in and actually adjusts the control damper or the RPM of the fan motor to meet all those numbers across the entire system. So once that's accomplished, that report is given to the architect and he signs off on it and they approve it, and it's checked off on their punch list. Unless you physically change the system, if the system is unchanged for 2 decades, you'll never have to rebalance it. It's when you change a motor or motor size, you change duct work, duct configuration, duct size, that's when the system has to be rebalanced. So at the end of every, at least in my experience in construction, at the end of every installation of an HVAC system that has to do with air handling, it's an automatic requirement that the system be balanced. That's how that works. So, and then unless you change something dramatically in the system stays static. It would be the same thing as if you had an air handler in your basement that was providing air conditioning and heat to your first floor. As long as you don't change anything to the system, there's no need to rebalance the system. It stays balanced.
Got it.
That makes sense?
It does. Thank you. Catherine, do you have a question? Did I miss you? No? Okay. Rich, also, but like as the high school's been added on over the years, is that, you think that's some of the problems with the?
Well, no, some of the problem is that you have, you have four decades of different technologies in the building. So in some areas, and I'm going to go back. I'm probably going to stick my foot in my mouth, but I mean, we spent the money on that addition at the high school, the 99-2000 edition.
Yeah.
And we probably spent $1.5 million on new HVAC equipment and didn't include air conditioning. Come on. Those are kind of things that, that are, I don't know, short-sighted, I guess. It's easy to be a armchair quarterback looking at it from 20 years in the future, but ultimately, those are problems. So airflow, when you're trying to increase airflow with 95-degree outside air, I don't care how much air is crossing your forehead, it's still uncomfortable.
Right.
And the only way you can modulate comfort is full environmental control. Highland is a good example. It's and that's what it is. At the high school, you just have way too many different technologies, from rooftop unit ventilators to classroom unit ventilators, rooftop units. I mean, it's just a whole litany of different types of technologies that you have in that school that makes it difficult to control, if not impossible. And hot and cold zones. That's the inevitable result.
Yeah, not to mention, I mean, some of the issues we have, most of our windows in the buildings are original, so they're single pane. They really don't have the energy efficiency, to keep the warm in when you need it and the cool in when you need it, and vice versa. So, some of the issues we have are related just to the windows.
Sure, building envelope makes a big difference. I mean, there's no doubt. But I mean, that's kind of you're dealing with that technology, so you're going to get a certain amount of R value from a single pane of glass. Well, whether it was 20 years ago or today, that single pane of glass has the same insulating properties. It's just a matter of how much fuel can you afford to throw at it to offset that, and then what level of comfort are you looking for? Are we more sensitive today than we were 20 years ago? I don't know. Right. It's a hard one to ask, but I think people have difficulty with heat more than they do with cold. That's my impression.
Got it. All right, Tim, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Actually, it's not a question, I don't think, probably more just a comment for Vin and for Rich. So we're talking about parking lot repavements, and we also are considering doing solar carports. Could happen, may not happen. Just be mindful of the two because they would presumably be co-located. You know, the I believe the one at the police department is partially like in the grass, but then part of it is right in the pavement. So just something to consider as you're moving forward on the parking paving.
Yeah, I think all of that is in the pavement.
Okay, it may be, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. It might have an overhang over the lawn, but it's essentially in the pavement.
Yeah, so just try to have that in mind, the timing of the two different things.
Well, unless but that the solar wouldn't go up this summer.
Yeah, I don't know how fast things could happen if we wanted to move forward. I mean, those.
Well, regardless whether we have solar or not, it still needs to be repaved. So.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
I would assume you'd want the parking lot paved before you install the
Yeah,
solar.
right.
So, all
But
right.
I know what Tim's alluding to. They'll have to dig footings and things of that nature.
Right.
So yeah, that'll be just part of that deal.
Thank you.
We're good?
We're good. We're good. You talked about Doolittle, right? Parking in Cornwall. Okay. That'll
Yeah.
be summer also, hopefully.
What was that, Doolittle?
Yes.
Yeah, Doolittle's going to be a tricky one because I need to get that tank replaced.
Right.
I hate to go in there and repave the whole thing just to have to cut it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm trying to coordinate that so it stays clean.
Right, because that tank is partially under the sidewalk and partially under the
Yeah.
driveway.
Yeah, and my plan is to move it entirely out of the driveway.
Yeah. Okay, and then the next three items, they're just really informational. The district school security improvements and the ADA compliance project, those did go to bid earlier, I guess 2 months ago, but we didn't get a lot of bids. There was a PBC recommendation to go forward, but the council was not comfortable going forward. So those are being referred back to the PBC for bidding. The question that's come up actually, this morning was, is there a chance that we could get these bid and done, and the answer is not for the summer. If we knew that schools were not going to be open till October, then I think it would make sense to rebid those. I mean, ultimately, it's the Public Building Commission's decision. But for those two projects, certainly not summer projects at this point anymore. It's too late.
Well, yeah, and I'm just so everyone realizes I'm on the Public Building Commission. I'm a member. Ultimately, it's construction. This is their busy time of year, and especially from an estimating perspective, in order to bump someone out of their schedule slot, you're going to have to pay premium. So even if school was postponed to October, there would still be a premium to pay, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So when would you go back out to bid, you think?
I think in my opinion, it's a winter bid. You're
Okay.
back. You're figuring for a 2021 construction period.
So we would go, I mean, we'd try and get out early,
Yeah, like January.
January. Yeah.
January, February, the latest.
Okay.
This way, you can maximize your bid productivity, right? Because not many people go out to bid until February, March for the summer. So if we get out there early, hopefully we get a good round of bids and get this lined up for next summer.
And Vin, did we notify the state that we weren't going forward with that work at the high school? Because we had gone to them, correct?
Yeah, we did. And, I remember asking Ryan Haley to do that. Rich, I just don't remember.
I believe he did.
Yeah.
I believe he did.
Okay,
That's a good question. I'll just make a note and double check.
great.
Okay, and then we already talked about the Doolittle boiler replacement
Yep.
for next year. So the last item that we had on the agenda is a building maintenance update. And, you know, we traditionally do this with the planning committee as a first step. Performance Environmental is our current cleaning contractor. I did provide, you know, some background information, and I'll just walk through it, you know, for the planning committee members, because the recommendation is to extend their contract for one more year. They've been our vendor since 2014, you know, as a result of a bid that was sent out. You know, they've done a good job for the schools since that time. Their first contract, we extended up to the 5-year limit, which ended on June 30th of 2018. Went out to bid again, and the bottom line is they were the winning bidder again, and they actually gave us a 2-year firm bid of $682,488, which was $40,833 lower than the previous year's contract. And they were able to do that because, you know, one, they learned our account, and two, they were able to make some internal staffing changes. You know, so that was a good result. You know, again, I think it's important to just remember that when we went out to bid, we have 2 years of the $682,000 price, and they clean all our buildings with the exception of Humiston.
Hmm.
Okay. During the COVID period, a couple of things happened. First of all, when we were early in the COVID period in March, you know, we did need them to step up their cleaning and disinfecting. You know, we had them disinfect the central office side. They actually used a special mister because we did have, you know, one person that had been diagnosed with COVID-19. So they really did a nice job stepping it up for us. You know, they gave us their COVID-19 procedures that, you know, they were following and their staff were following. On March 27th, when we closed our buildings, actually it was 2 weeks prior, was the last day of school, you know, Rich contacted them and we essentially suspended services. So we have not been paying them during that period of time. We did restore some services last week, but they are limited. And they've been very, very cooperative during that period. You know, there've been no issues as it relates to contract. So, you know, the first item that I'm recommending here is that we do extend their contract for one additional year. So that would be from July 1st of 2020 through June 30th of 2021. Again, from a Board of Ed perspective on what we're permitted to do, we can extend the contract for up to 5 years, and we do it 1 year at a time. So that's the first recommendation. As far as the contract pricing, there's a couple of things I want to point out. You know, first of all, again, we've had 2 years of fixed price, which was $40,000 lower from 2017-18. We talked to Performance. Rich and I spoke to the president of Performance Environmental, the owner, Steve Sadler, who was a Cheshire resident. And he takes very good care of this account because he is a resident. He and his firm, when the minimum wage was raised from $10.10 an hour effective October 1st of 2019, obviously that did affect them negatively. And then the minimum wage is going up now every 11 months till it gets to $15 an hour. So the next increase of $1 per hour is on September 1 of 2020. So basically 2 months, you know, after the new contract year begins. They did not raise our prices in October 2019. They couldn't because we were under a contract with them based on the bid. But, you know, they've seen an increase, you know, in the minimum wage of about 19.8%. So, that is their issue to deal with, but of course, they're gonna have to pass some of that cost on to us. So what we did is we negotiated a 5.5% increase to the base contract. So it would go from 682, 488 to this 719,784. We are recommending, I think it's a reasonable increase, given that they've already been paying their staff, a higher wage to whatever extent they've had to do that since October. But there is some good news here, and that is that because we've been out of school and our buildings have been closed since March 27th, our building maintenance staff has gone in and started doing the summer cleaning, and they're pretty far along. And so Rich has negotiated with Performance Environmental. We really will not need any summer cleaning services. And if they are, they'll be minimum. So that will result in a $103,815 cost decrease. So we're expecting, instead of the $719,000, assuming this 5.5% increase, we're expecting that we'll pay Performance about $615,000 because we're excluding the summer cleaning this year. And the only caution that I wanted to put, to the planning committee members is that we're not sure what additional COVID-19 related costs will incur for Performance Environmental, whether it's through, additional disinfecting or sanitizing that needs to be done. When schools open in the fall, assuming that they do, we may need to have someone during the day do periodic bathroom cleanings, whether we do it with our own staff or have to hire Performance Environmental, we'll need to see. But I did want to point out that we may have an offset to some of this expected savings just because of, the COVID-19 required cleaning. So, the summary here is, we certainly are appreciative of Performance Environmental's work. They've done a good job for us. They've been very reliable during this pandemic period. So we want to extend them for a year. And Rich, I don't know if there's anything that you'd like to pepper in here.
No, they have good history with us. They've performed well, more consistent over the last 2 years, I can say. I think the first year I was here, they had different supervision and it was a little rocky at times. But over the last 2 years, they've been consistent, which is probably the biggest challenge when you're dealing with commercial cleaning contractor. They're responsive. I rely on them, especially at the onset of this COVID-19, pandemic, for their, I consider them subject matter experts on cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting. They gave us a lot of good pertinent information, and they've been supportive contractor. We have a good relationship, and certainly would like to continue that.
And Vin, just even with the 5.5% increase,
Yeah.
Contract, it's still lower than it was in the 17-18 year of 723,321, correct?
Yes, it is.
So even with the minimum wage increases based on the original contract, still saving.
Yeah, compared to that, yeah.
Yeah.
And even the 719 is below where we budgeted. So, that'll keep us in good shape, which we're going to need.
And Rich, they're responsive. Like, we're serviced well, and if there's issues at the schools, they're there. And
oh my God, yeah.
Okay.
We've developed a couple programs for instance, especially during flu season, or dealing with the lower grades with defecation and urination, and we've developed an internal system where we notify them that day by 3:00 if we need to disinfect the room. They do it that night. It's actually sometimes I'm amazed at how quick they can get it done. But they're responsive. We've developed some decent protocols and programs, and they've been working. So
Great. My 13-year-old daughter has a different opinion about the Dodd bathrooms, but we'll leave that.
clean and ancient are two different
Well, that,
perspectives.
yeah, she's used to something different, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
does Tim, you have a question?
Yeah, Vin. Wait. Yeah, you can hear me. I'm not on mute. Vin, I think you had mentioned. So this contract was originally a 5-year contract, which ended 2 years ago.
It was, when we bid it, Tim, it was the first 2 years were bid and we signed a contract, and then we extend 1 year at a time. So we extended 3 times.
Oh, okay. So we've done 5 years so far.
Correct. After the first bid, we did our 5 years. Now we're going into year 3 of the second bid.
Wait a second. All right. I'm what year did they actually start? We're in 2020. What year did
They
start?
started 2014.
Okay. So
That was contract 1.
Yep.
contract 1 was. All right. So here's my bottom line question. I'm fine with this. You say they're providing good service. You want to extend it 1 year. I mean, in your opinion, at some point, would you want to go out and do a full bid again?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we did 2 years ago, Tim.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
if we were dissatisfied, we would have gone to bid again this year.
Okay.
But we're not. And,
Okay.
the changing a cleaning contractor, you need a lot of lead time, and it is a big deal for them
It
to
is a
learn
big
the
deal.
buildings.
Yeah. No. That makes sense to me. I guess it's just as a general rule of thumb. I mean, at some point, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever it is, I think it would be worthwhile to. So we're 2 years into it.
Correct.
But to go out to bid, periodically. That's my only point. This year is, you said they provide a good service, so I'm happy with that at a good price.
Yeah, and
Yep.
under this current contract, the max you can extend it is for a total of 5. So eventually
we
you'll
would
hit that
actually-
wall. You're going to have to go out to bid again anyway.
So in 3 years we would have to. Okay.
Right.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
And I hate to say it, going out to bid now during this current climate, it would be, I'm sure people are gouging over services, cleaning.
It's a really tough business. It's tough to the turnover on crews, the attrition rate on crews is like crazy. So it's like very difficult to find, a contractor that does that kind of service and is consistent as far as quality. I mean, yeah, I understand there's different opinions on what quality is and should be, but they've been doing the job, at least to my satisfaction.
Okay, anybody have any other questions? Catherine, you all set?
I'm all set. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve an extension of the contract for Performance Environmental?
Sure. I move that the planning committee, can you move that? Okay, the planning committee requests that the Board of Education approve the extension of the contract with Performance Environmental LLC for the 2020-2021 fiscal year.
Is there a second?
Tim is seconding it.
Tim?
Sorry, second. I was on mute. Sorry about that.
No problem. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
We are getting it done tonight.
Oh.
All right. Is there anything else for discussion?
I have nothing else.
No. Catherine, you good? Tim?
I'm all set.
All right. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yeah, let Tim do it.
Motion
Are you
to
sure? All right.
And I'll second it.
All right, Catherine, you second it. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much,
Thank you. Have a
everyone.
good night.
We'll
All
see you
right, good
tomorrow
night,
night.
everyone.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right,
Good night.
take care.